astrophysicist, and I work on simulating galaxies and studying how they affect their environment at different eras in the history of the universe. A star is basically a massive cloud of gas which collapses under its own gravity, and the collapse produces heat which starts fusion in its core, which stops it from further collapse. So that's when we say a star was born. So the different types of stars are basically stars of different masses and at different evolutionary stages. Stars at less than about 8% the mass of the sun become what we call as brown dwarfs. Stars much bigger than the sun would be giants or blue giants because of the color. And sun, as it evolves into a later stage in life, it becomes what we call as a red giant.
What is a star? Are they more than just lights in the sky? This week on Space But Messier. Let's start with the brightest star in our sky, but you won't find it at night because it's actually our very own sun. Planet Earth orbits around a medium-sized and fairly young star, and although it appears yellow, it's actually white in color. Now, a star, like our sun, is a huge glowing ball of gas that forms in a cosmic cloud of gas and dust called a nebula. And over time, gravity pulls a bunch of this cloud towards a common center. It gets super dense, pressure rises, and the temperatures can reach up to 1,000,000 degrees. Now, over time, it gets hot enough to where it begins nuclear fusion, and that's when hydrogen turns into helium and eventually exerts an outward pressure. Now, when this outward pressure equals that of the force of gravity pulling it in, it becomes balanced, and this is when the star's life begins. This state, in which the star spends most of its life, is known as hydrostatic equilibrium. In fact, most of the stars you see in the night sky are in this equilibrium. This balance lasts as long as there's hydrogen fuel. Once it's burned all of it up, that outward pressure stops existing, and the gravity pulls the star and it collapses towards the center and possibly goes what we like to call supernova.
The sky is not blue. It's mostly transparent air, which is, at best, the color of whatever light it scatters. Sure, it does scatter blue light more than red light. In fact, the higher the frequency of light, the more it gets scattered by the atmosphere. So ultraviolet scatters more than blue, which scatters more than green, more than yellow, more than red, more than infrared. But still, only a tiny bit of light scatters, while most of it goes straight through, which is, how the sun can light up the ground, why we can see the moon and stars through the atmosphere, etc. The sun itself actually emits a wide range of frequencies of light, and our human eyes perceive this particular combination as white or neutral in color. The vast majority of the sky appears bluish because sunlight that was trying to go somewhere else got scattered by the air and instead ended up in your eye. Bummer. It still has a wide range of frequencies in it, with slightly more blue than in white light, roughly the same amount of green, and less red. You can see a simple demonstration of this on a computer if I take a white background, add a bit of deep blue, and subtract a tiny bit of pure red. I get a nice sky color. And the reverse effect happens when you look near the sun. Light that was trying to get to your eyes gets scattered away, so the remaining light has a lot less blue and slightly more red, compared with white light, which is why the sun and sky directly around it appear yellowish during the day. At sunset, there's even more air for the light to scatter off of before it reaches you, hence the even richer oranges and reds. And of course you can do the computer demo again, this time subtracting pure blue and adding a little red. Voila, noontime sun. Subtract more blue and add even more red? Sunset orange. So the sky is not blue. It's a stage upon which all colors dance. Red colors tend to dance in straighter lines, green colors more randomly, and deep blue colors dance the most frenetically of all. Yet at some point, they all ultimately dance their way into your eyes, and my eyes, and to the earth and into space, so that everyone everywhere can appreciate the grand ballet of light.
You know the smell you get when rain falls on the ground, especially on dry soil? It's called petrichor, and it's a unique, fresh, beautiful fragrance different from any other. An unsolved question about petrichor was how its molecules reached our noses from the soil after rain. In 2015, researchers at MIT recorded high-speed footage of the drops falling on the ground. They saw that some of the drops falling on the soil bounced back, forming air bubbles. These micro droplets contained the components of petrichor. In addition, the droplets were so small they formed an aerosol, a suspension of particles in the air. They were then carried on air currents so that the petrichor in them eventually reached our noses. So the mystery was solved. Studies have also shown that the microdroplets form only in light rain. That's why you don't sense the characteristic smell of petrichor after a heavy downpour. Finally, the research on how petrichor reaches us also explains how some diseases caused by bacteria in the soil, such as E. coli, are transmitted by rain.
The moon has been our friendly neighbor in the sky for billions of years. It's guided us home, kept us on time, protected us, propelled us into space, and has even launched dance crazes. So, how exactly did we get a moon in the first place? Scientists believe it started off with a splash. The giant impact hypothesis, also known as the Big Splash, theorizes that a Mars-sized celestial object named Theia came crashing into Earth 4.5 billion years ago, tossing vaporized particles of Earth's crust into space. At this point, Earth was still a baby, only 30 to 50 million years old and not much more than molten lava. Some scientists call this early Earth Gaia. Over time, the debris of Gaia and Theia joined together in a dance with Earth's gravity and formed the moon we know and love today. If it weren't for Italian astronomer Galileo's discovery of the moon's spherical shape in 1609, we'd probably still think the Earth was the center of the universe.
Houston, we have a problem.
An idea proposed by Aristotle in 284 BCE that was widely accepted for over 1,500 years. Our moon was instrumental in launching the space race, which propelled humans to the stars. In the words of Neil Armstrong, going to the moon was
one small step for man,
one giant leap for mankind. Without it, who knows if we'd even bother traveling to space? And would there be any chance of us ever becoming space tourists? Well, that's a story for another What If.
Okay, it's go there, Capcom on the hot fire. Okay, all flight controllers going around the horn, gonna go for undocking. Okay, retro, go. Fido, go. Guide, go. Control, go. Telcom, go. Jinsei, go. Ecom, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, we're go for undocking.
Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins arrived at the moon on Saturday, July 19th.
When we did get close and we rolled out and saw it for the first time, it was a revelation. It was gigantic. It filled our entire window.
The next day, Sunday, July 20th, was landing day.
In a lot of anticipation, we finally come to the day, the moment that this is about to commence.
Landing on the moon was absolutely the most difficult piece of any Apollo mission, okay? Think about it as a controlled fall out of lunar orbit. The problem is, in this controlled fall out of orbit, you only have enough fuel for one try.
Capcom, we're go for landing. Altitude 4,200.
Houston, you're a go for landing, over. Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent. Mode control both auto, descent engine command override off. Engine arm off. 413 is in. We copy you down, Eagle. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has imaged an enormous display of auroras on our solar system's largest planet, Jupiter. These vibrant dancing lights are hundreds of times brighter than those seen on Earth and are packed with details about how the planet's atmosphere behaves and what it is composed of. Auroras are created when high-energy particles enter a planet's atmosphere and collide with atoms or molecules of gas. At Jupiter, these charged particles come from either the nearby solar wind, which is a barrage of charged particles unleashed by the Sun, or material thrown into space by its own volcanically active moon, Io. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope simultaneously took pictures in the ultraviolet. By comparing the timing and duration of flashes seen in both sets of images, astronomers can work out how Jupiter's atmosphere reacts to the onslaught of particles. But bizarrely, the brightest light seen by Webb in the infrared had no real counterpart in Hubble's pictures taken using ultraviolet light. In order to cause the overall brightness seen by both Webb and Hubble, we need to have a combination of high quantities of very low energy particles hitting the atmosphere, which was previously thought to be impossible. This has left many new and exciting questions to be answered.
We have ignition, and we have liftoff of the Titan Centaur carrying the first of two Voyager spacecraft to extend man's senses farther into the solar system than ever before.
They were launched in 1977. That's a long time ago. We say 41 years, but it's really two generations ago. You can think of what the technology was. Your smartphone has 200,000 times more memory than what the Voyager spacecraft have. And so it's just exciting that we've been able to get it into interstellar space.
And then after 1989, we began what is now called the Voyager interstellar mission. We were on a path we hoped to get to reach interstellar space while we still had power on the spacecraft to transmit the data back. And that's what Voyager 1 did in 2012, and that's now what Voyager 2 is starting to do in 2018.
What that means is that the Voyager 2 spacecraft is now traveling in interstellar space.
Well, this just contributes to the number of discoveries that Voyager's been making, and this is one we'd hoped we would have the chance to do, and fortunately, the SPOS spacecraft were still operating when they reached interstellar space. It's really quite remarkable. Voyager changed our view of the solar system, really. I mean, we saw these active volcanic activity on Io, we saw the possibility of ocean on Europa. Just time after time, we were discovering things that we had not really even imagined some years before the Voyager mission. What makes it so exciting is that not only do we confirm what we thought we knew, but even better, it tells us where we didn't know that there was something to be discovered.
So, you want to be an astronaut? If you have what it takes, we want you up here.
NASA's Professional Astronaut Corps works as a team to train and to fly for the benefit of all humankind and to provide crew perspective for all of human space exploration. We serve our country and our planet by testing, developing, investigating, and flying. Our decisions today ensure mission success and crew safety for some of the most audacious missions humans have ever undertaken, to the moon and beyond. If this sounds like you, then join our team.
Our selection approach is a holistic one. We learn all we can about an applicant in a variety of ways, including resume reviews, reference checks, and for those highly qualified applicants that advance to the interview rounds, we do individual and team exercises and medical assessments. The process involves a lot of subject matter experts, including current astronauts, and takes about 2 years from start to finish. Our goal is to select a class of astronaut candidates that are strong team members and operators, adaptable to a variety of situations, can be positive voices of NASA, and can successfully complete training and ultimately be assigned a mission.
We depend on each other every day. And in space, our lives depend on one another. The success of our missions comes down to the people who are part of them.
Astronauts don't just come from one walk of life or one educational or career path. Their multifaceted experiences have given them a strong sense of purpose, made them adaptable, and exposed them to work with people that are different from them, giving them strong teaming skills.
Make sure your family and friends are on board with your goal. You will need a strong support network because you will lean on them, but don't worry, we'll be here for you also.
Of course, minimum qualifications must be met to ensure an adequate foundation of education and experience. Those details can be found at nasa.gov/astronauts.